Before we get started, I should give you guys a primer about the world, just in case you're not familiar with it. The world of Lumera started from nothingness. Total black darkness. And then the god Aenir was born from that darkness. He was the first person, or the first being, to bring light to the universe. And from that light, he spawned the elemental planes of fire, water, earth, and air. As the planes commingled and kind of bled together, they created a world. And Aenir, enamored with this world, created life. So he kind of doted on these beings that he created, the humans, and also all the animals and whatnot. He's the creator god, Aenir. And but he never had a companion until he bore his wife, Daedra, from his right arm. And Daedra loved Aenir completely. So much so that she was jealous of his creation, the humans, and this world that he called Lumera. So she began to sow seeds of chaos throughout the world in order to prove to Aenir that his creation was not perfect and that he shouldn't care about this Lumera. Long story short, there was an intense battle between the two of them, in which Aenir cast Daedra into the world below, basically this world's version of the Hells, and Daedra became the first demon. Or I should say, this world's version of the Abyss, technically. And she became this world's first demon. And then, in the battle, Aenir suffered a grievous injury, which he could not survive. And so Aenir's light was scattered across the universe, creating all the stars in the sky. And all that remained of him were his two eyes that became the sun and the moon. After a considerable amount of time, where Courtney Buggs suddenly appears. Hey, Courtney. After a considerable amount of time, there is a 800-year-long war between the humans for land and control of the world of Lumera. And 12 humans, in particular, discover shards of Aenir's divinity. They use these shards to grant themselves godlike power and decide to bring order to the world. They create dragons in order to do this, using the divinity. But, and this is where history sort of gets messy in this world, something went wrong with the dragons and they lost control. And the dragons began to lay waste to Lumera, and the newly christened scions, these wielders of the shards of Aenir, they had to destroy their creations, the dragons, in order to save the world. And after that, there is a point where the use of these shards of Aenir, the pure unadulterated magic of them, breaks the world, creating portals that lead to other planes of existence, the Feywild, the Shadowfell, the Beastlands, etc. And this is where Thanks. Yeah. And this is where our concept of other beings other than humans in this world begins. We have from the Feywild, we have the elf kind. We're doing a world building and like an impromptu world building stream where I'm basically going to I'm talking about a little primer about the history of the world that we play in on Sunday nights, Lumera, and then we're gonna just make some stuff up and populate the world with some fun stuff. So yeah, we have the elves that come from the Feywild. We have dwarves and gnomes and halflings that all come from another plane of existence that I'm calling Dwed Nogek, or Dwarf Mountain. Basically, it's a plane that's basically a giant mountain where these people known as dwarves and the other small folk come from. From the Beastlands, we have our various anthropomorphic animal races. Woo! Thank you. Whoa! 100 bits for charity. 105 bits for charity. Total. Wow, that's, thank you, guys. Very good. Awesome. So, where was I? I lost my train of thought. Bits for charity got me excited. So I won't get into every single race because there are some intricate, important things about each race and where they come from and how they exist in this world. But kind of want to tie this up pretty nicely. So we have a period of relative peace, with the exception of our where we're currently playing in the continent of Verdun, and specifically the country of Zaldan has a very difficult history to deal with, because they were controlled for a considerably long period of time by a group known as the Red Thorns. The Red Thorns are a human-centric... I mean, I don't like throwing this label around, but imagine the worst neo-Nazi, terrible people that you could think of. That's the Red Thorns in a nutshell. They hunted monstrous races, quote-unquote monstrous races, without mercy, and they also considered humans to be superior to any of the other races in the world because they were the first to exist in Lumera. And as we know, that is very, very bad and not becoming of a people. The Red Thorns, though, were obliterated by good King Zaldan, who took over the country. Well, not the king himself, not the original Zaldan, but one of his descendants destroyed them. I'm a little fuzzy on the history of Zaldan, because Zaldan is actually a creation of Kai, who plays Isaac. My players kind of created their own, or a few of my players kind of created their own countries within the world, and so I'm a little fuzzy on the history of Zaldan, but yeah, I make it work. I keep extensive notes here on yeah, genocide is never a good thing for anyone involved. Yeah, no, not at all. Anyway, I keep extensive notes on World Anvil, which is the page that you can see before you. World Anvil is an amazing service. They're free to use, but you can, and I think they just recently launched their subscription service. They were originally on Patreon. I was an early supporter on Patreon, and they now recently launched their subscription service. And so yeah, so they're fully operating out of their website now. So if you want, let's put a link on it, shall we? Let's do this. www.worldanvil.com. Nope, not World Anvils. worldanvil.com. Yeah, they're an amazing service. Can't recommend them enough. We are not sponsored by them, but if they were interested in sponsoring our channel, I would totally support that 100%. Anyway, let's get into some creation, shall we? Let's make some things. So, World Anvil is pretty intuitive. They have all sorts of different categories that you can choose from to create various things, and then each category comes. Yeah, once you can figure out a good use for their site, it's definitely helpful. Like I initially saw them, and we hadn't started doing this stream yet, and I was like, man, that's a really cool tool, but I don't know what I would use it for. I still supported them on Patreon, but I was like, I don't know what I'll ever use this for. And then I got into this project, and we started doing world building. We started creating our homebrew world, and I thought this is perfect. This is perfect for this. So, let's pick a thing and start making something. I kind of want to. Yeah, YouTube is the perfect place to catch up on the campaign. I think I have all the episodes up to date there. Yeah, YouTube is a great place to catch up on the campaign. So I want to kind of stray away from where we are currently in the world, the continent of Verdun and the sister continent Severin, and let's just start creating a place in the world, just a random place. So I think, let's see, which category is appropriate. Yay, creating things, yeah. Why is country and religion flashing? Country, religion, organization. Oh, I guess it's the organization tab. Gotcha. Let's just start with the settlement. Let's start with a settlement. So, when you select a category on World Anvil, they give you. Oh, some of this is new. I haven't actually been on the creative part of World Anvil in a while. I guess they've teamed up with How to Be a Great GM on YouTube. So they've got all kinds of new little bits and bobs, but they give you all sorts of questions to kind of help you flesh out your thing. So let's see. This is just a vignette to kind of do a little prose writing for about whatever thing you're talking about. We won't give the article a title yet because we don't know exactly. Start small and work out the best approach. Yeah, some people have different approaches to world building, and I think both are very applicable. When it came to actually creating this world, I kind of started broad and came up with the creation mythos first because it just kind of came to me when I was thinking about it, and then we kind of built the world around the creation mythos. But yeah, so we're gonna come up with the settlement. We'll skip the first couple of things because we're not really sure what we're calling it yet. So let's say location type. Okay, so we have various options for location types. We have a slum, military camp, military base, hamlet, outpost, village, all the way up to Ecumenopolis. I've never even heard of an Ecumenopolis. I'll admit, it's very strange. But I'll have to look that one up later unless somebody wants to Google it for me. Ecumenopolis. Ecumenopolis. So, yeah. What kind of we'll probably skip orbital station because our world isn't quite that advanced. But yeah, what Googling it now? Thanks, generic nerd. You're the best. That's why you're a VIP. Excuse me. So yeah, do we wanna just come up with like a tiny hamlet, or do we want to come up with a big city, so to speak? Also, a little bit of important primer information. Our world that we are playing in is basically about as advanced as the mid 1800s. So early 19th century, mid to early 19th century technology. There are locomotives, there are firearms, there are, basically that level of technology. So that kind of stuff is important. Yeah, Ecumenopolis is the hypothetical concept of a planet-wide city. Okay, so sort of like Ravnica in Magic the Gathering. Gotcha. All right. Very cool. So, let's just start with a city. How big is our city? Let's say. Now, based on... There's a Dungeon Master's Guide. Based on guidelines from the Dungeon Master's Guide, cities have a general population. Basically, think Coruscant or Ravnica. Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking too. Oh yeah, that page turning ASMR. Turning pages. I hope you guys appreciate it. Where is that information? Here we go. So in the Dungeon Master's Guide, they list a city as having up to about a population of up to about 25,000. So let's say our city is about there. Let's just plug in a random number. Let's say 24,896. That's the population of our world. or of our city, I should say. And then each of these little categories come with, well, most of them come with a little primer or a little bit of information. Like, for instance, the population of a settlement is defined as the number of permanent citizens accounted for during the settlement's last census. It does not take into consideration itinerant visitors like traveling merchants, standing armies, etc. So that good average number, yeah. Yeah, 24,896, a good average number. So let's talk about our demographics for this city. Just give me a random race from D&D that you think might populate this city, or what might be even more important. Let's see if we can find it down here. Geography and natural resources. Before we even tieflings, of course, I knew that was coming, Court. I knew that was coming. Tieflings for sure. Tieflings are actually interesting. Humans a minority? That would be pretty cool. Yeah, tieflings are actually interesting in this world. Tieflings are the result of demonic influence in this world, but they aren't. It's not so much that their families made pacts with, or their ancestors made a pact with a demon or a devil. All of the tieflings in this world are the results of deals that families have made with the demoness of greed, Ava. So basically, a family makes a deal with Ava in order to gain wealth or some sort, basically out of greed, they make a deal with Ava, and in order to make good on the deal, they give Ava a child. The child is then taken down to the world below and raised by Ava. And they are, packs, so to speak. The child is then taken down and raised by Ava. And her demonic influence causes them to develop their tiefling appearance. So they are mostly... They are born humanoids, and as such, tieflings in this world can have a wide variety of shapes and sizes. There are dwarf-born tieflings in this world. There are halfling-born tieflings in this world. So they're not all strictly the tall, lithe, horned figures that you're used to. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I'm off track. Off topic. I can't even talk. I can't talk. I don't know why. I don't know why. So yeah, let's actually talk about geography and natural resources first, because I think that will be important and inform on what sort of population lives there. So, do we want a coastal city? Do we want a desert city? Do we want a city that's on a mountaintop? Do we want to do... I don't know. We could do an entirely floating city, something that is kind of a man-made, so to speak, a man-made city that floats on the water, and kind of sort of similar to the BioShock Infinite flying city, but maybe maybe instead of flying, it's just kind of floating on the ocean. Yeah, there's all kinds of options that we could do. I think maybe we could do. We have kind of the continent of Verdun that is very kind of, or was very lush and green before it was developed. I think that maybe we could do a steampunk floating city. I am interested. Okay. Yeah. Floating, moving city. Cool. All right. So So now this begets the question: are we talking about a floating city that is on the water, or are we talking about a flying city that is in the air? I think that flying city might actually be a better option, and here's why. The oceans in Lumera are extremely dangerous, thanks to the fallen scion, the Torrent. The Torrent is was the name of one of the original 12 scions that saved Lumera. But the Torrent and the Raven, the Crow, the Torrent and the Crow, had a falling out with the other scions, and as a result of that, the Torrent and the Crow are evil scions, as opposed to the other scions, which are generally neutral and good. Yeah, flying sounds safer. Yeah, flying might be good. Might be a good option. So, geography. The air / wherever we land, but can only fly over bodies of water. That's an interesting choice. So what I'm imagining is a steampunk city that flies, but there are either druids or clerics who are using control water in order to siphon water up from the ocean and power the turbines, so to speak. That's what immediately comes to mind when you say it can only fly over bodies of water. I'm imagining that the city is like a water-powered city, but it flies over bodies of water. So let's say the air is our geography / turbines are go. Yeah, an interesting site indeed, for sure. The air / bodies of water. All right, cool. I like this. This is awesome. This is very cool. So what are our natural resources in the air / over the water? I'm instantly thinking that they can for sure get fish if they're controlling water in order to power their city. They're for sure getting fish. Obviously maybe salt from desalinization of the water. Because obviously they're going to have to find some way to get fresh water besides just rain catchers in order to keep an entire city hydrated and clean. So yeah, fish, salt. What else do we think natural resources wise in the air? Trying to think what else they could have that would be perhaps stone and minerals from nearby cliff faces, rock formations they find. Well, here's a better question. Why is our city flying in the first place? Why is our city in the air in the first place? Are they running from something? Are they avoiding something? Are they just crazy and they want to be in the air? See, this is what happens. You start to go down a rabbit hole of creating this you know, one part of the world, and then you get down a rabbit hole of, well, why is this? Always ask yourself why when you're world building, because it's important to answer those questions in order to fully realize what you're creating. So yeah, let's ask ourselves why. Why is our city flying? Are they just a bunch of mad scientists? Long ago, they lifted the city to avoid the wrath of the... Now they're thriving. See, there we go. So, originally it was a coastal city, let's say. Let's say it was originally a coastal city, and they became reliant on that, avoiding a curse from a god that if they ever build on the ground, curse is enacted. Cylon, I appreciate the input, but the important thing to know about this world, and I think you might have missed the primer when we first started the stream tonight. We don't actually have gods in the sense that they're all-powerful beings who are celestials and the like. This world had a creator god, and then the creator god died and kind of broke apart into pieces. And there are now sort of demigods, so to speak, in the world that act as the religious directive for the world. We call them scions. Also, good to see you, Cylon. Glad you could join us tonight. So yeah, I think what MPER, or as I know him, Waffles, what Mr. Waffles suggested, yeah, long ago they lifted the city to avoid the wrath of the fallen scion, specifically the Torrent, who is the scion of the sea and storms and destruction. Yeah, I think that originally they were a coastal city, and in order to avoid religious influencers, yeah. Originally they were a coastal city, and I think that they became reliant on that lifestyle, the fishing industry and the like. And I think that they had a population of people who were creative enough to come up with the ability to save themselves from this plight that they God, words are escaping me. This plight that they were suffering. So yeah, I think that that's a very cool idea. I like that. So let's see. Industry and trade. Describe here the way that the settlement stays afloat. Stays afloat. What do its inhabitants do for a living? I imagine falconry is quite popular there. Yeah, probably. Okay. So let's say here. Let's do a history real quick. So, I'm just gonna plug in city for now because we don't have a name for it yet. Once existed as a port of call for traders and merchants. After the fall of the Torrent, Please forgive the clickety-clack of my keyboard, by the way. After the fall of the torrent... City... Excuse me. Long day. After the fall of the torrent, City needed to find a way to exist. You don't mind the keyboard? Yeah, some people don't mind it, some people do. I have to look into getting a better keyboard for streaming, especially if I'm going to be typing on stream. After the fall of the torrent, City needed to find a way to exist. To thrive. Without immediate access to the ocean. Thus, the idea to create a means for the city to fly was born. For the city to fly. There we go. Okay. So, we've got kind of the base idea of why our city is flying. Close this up because I don't need it. Okay. Date that it became a ruin. Wow, you guys really included some dark stuff here. So, natural resources again. I think maybe we can include falcons as a natural resource. Maybe they have a good maybe they have a big falcon hatchery there. What are their heavier resources of income in acting like flying cruise ship? Yeah, maybe. So let's say, God, what's the hospitality? Is that what it's called? No, tourism. That's what it's called. Tourism. Trained birds in general. Trained birds. All right. Cool. All right. So let's think of tourism should probably go here in industry and trade, probably. Let's think of some guilds or factions that might be in this city. Obviously, a self-sustaining flying city. Salts, other minerals from the sea. Yeah, for sure. Natural resources, salts, / other minerals. So let's think of some guilds or factions that are definitely. I think the falcon. We've definitely got a falconry guild, right? What do we want to call them? Falconry. Question mark. We'll jot that down for now. Falconry. Spell that right. So we got a falconry guild, or a bird, or kind of a bird trainers, tinkerers and mechanics, of course. Tinkers / mechanics. We're gonna obviously have a group that's devoted to kind of the natural world, naturalists, hospitality service industry guild, yeah. Service industry. Here, let's make this bigger so that we can see all the options. There we go. Bird trainers, tinkerers, mechanics, service industry. We've got, probably got sailors of some kind. Probably got a druidic circle, yep. Group of clerics or druids, yeah. Yeah, druidic circle / cleric order. Now this might be an interesting way to look at it. Maybe the group, because originally the Torrent was a good guy. Originally the Torrent was a good scion, good aligned, and wanted to do good for the world. What if the druidic circle or cleric order or both were devotees of the Torrent before the Torrent went bad? And that's part of why they're on this city. They're the last of the good guys that are using the magics that were granted to them by the Torrent. I think that would be an interesting way to go about it. I think that if we actually put the last vestiges of good, yeah, and they're trying to restore his positive image. Maybe not restore his positive image, but they're kind of actively fighting against the corruption that the Torrent has now brought. They're like the good guy swashbuckling. They're like the seeking a way to restore the Torrent. Maybe they're trying to find a way to clinging to what he once was. Yeah. I got a knot in my neck and it hurts real bad. Yeah, I think that's cool. So let's come up with some names for these guilds then. Oh, obviously any city. Yeah, it's rough being a tall person in a kitchen designed for short things, short people. I'm like hunched over constantly. Obviously, we're going to need some sort of law and order. Our faction of city guards, so to speak, and we'll also likely have a thieves guild, especially on a city that travels around. They'll probably have their hands in some pots. Merchant guilds. Yeah, we don't have to get into all of the various things. Yeah, we've probably got fishmongers. We've probably got We've got all kinds of guilds, but these are going to be the more prominent ones, the ones that are most important to the city, so to speak. So let's come up with some ideas then for names for these various guilds, and then I will show you a cool feature that World Anvil provides. How about thieves / merchants, maybe legal thieves? How do you mean, generic nerd? Elaborate for me. While I make you guys sick from scrolling, trying to find the proper coding for adding a link for a thing. Here we go, a template list. Alright, I'm just going to copy paste this to somewhere so that I have it. WordPad. Come on. I know I don't use it that often, but it should be here. There we go. I'll just copy paste it somewhere. No, not stream, or not Steam, I mean. Like merchants that use the guild to do back alley deals in illegal business that is otherwise frowned upon, but they agree is necessary. So you mean sort of like a front, like maybe the. Here, we'll scroll back up here so we can see it. Maybe the leader of the bird training guild is also using his birds in order to do some nefarious things, but they agree it's for the greater good, so to speak. Okay, yeah, that could be interesting. So maybe the Thieves Guild is also the Bird Trainers Guild. Maybe they're one and the same. Maybe they're called the Hawks. No, that sounds too warmongery. Maybe they're called. Oh, what's the name of a? There's a bird that specifically likes shiny things, kind of like a perch, like a perch. It will just bite at anything that's shiny. There's a bird that's like that. Trying to think of what I'm trying to get across. Here, let me paste this before I forget so that I have it. Magpies. There we go. What if they're called the Magpies? So they're a guild that is known for training birds for good things, but they're also kind of underneath, like the people on the know. They know that the Magpies are also have their hands in all kinds of other not so legal pots. Oh, I say I can dig it all the time, generic nerd. You're not using dated language at all. We're totally hip with the cool kid lingo. Alright, cool. So we have the Magpies. So now, Now what I'm going to show you is a very cool feature that World Anvil provides to you that you can use. And actually, before I say anything, let me make sure. Okay, so this is for guild members only. This is for guild members only. So if you have a subscription, which you can get through their website, I think the lowest cost one is like $4.99 a month or something like that. Don't quote me on that either. I'm not 100% sure. But you can become a guild member, and this is a cool feature that they provide to you, so that you don't forget to create articles for these new things that you're creating as you're writing. So you can create a link to a blank article that will then allow you to go and create an article for the new thing you came up with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find... so we have an option for organization, and I'm going to type before the magpies, I'm going to type @ and then after it, I'm going to put in parentheses organization. And then I'm going to save. I'll save this. Save changes. I have to fill out. I'm just going to call it Floating City for now, because I don't know what we're calling it yet. Save changes. Okay, changes are saved. Now we're going to preview. And I can scroll down here. And you see Magpies has a link to it now, and I can click on the Magpies. And it takes me to a blank organization page that I can then fill out information about the Magpies. What type of organization they are, motto, slogan, axiom, flag crest, alternative names, etc. Yeah, it's a very cool feature, very helpful. But again, that's only for guild members. People who have subscribed to World Anvil. But again, I cannot stress enough how good of a thing World Anvil is for people who are writing or creatives, trying to get their thoughts down in a place in the same place. If you're creating a world. It's so good. I love it. It's great. Anyway, let's go back to Van Cairn. Is that the name for the city? Van Cairn. Is there any significance? Is that kind of a hodgepodge of some words from another language? Cairn looks familiar. I think that is that Gaelic or Celtic? Okay, so let's go back to our... Yeah, I'm down with calling the city Van Cairn. All right, so we have the Magpies. That's our bird trainers / thieves guild. So then we've got a guild of tinkerers and mechanics, obviously important for keeping the city aloft. Come up with a name for them. We've also got our service industry guild. We've got our sailors, the druidic circle. Maybe the druidic circle and cleric order are also the sailors. They're the ones that are the navigators for the city, keeping the city on track. And then we've got our City Watch. We've got some fishmongers. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Alright. So I tell you what. I'm going to grab another drink, and we're going to take a short break. And while I'm gone, feel free to talk amongst yourselves and come up with some ideas for names for these various guilds. And I will be right back. And we're back. Sorry that took so long. Long story short, there were tamales and I's hungry. So, yeah, I nommed some tamales real quick because I needed nourishment. And then I patted some kitty floof. Yep. Not ashamed. I heart cats. Anyway. So, it looks like we have some ideas about what we might like to call our guilds. The Vanguards. Very nice. A hidden pun. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Hospitality Guild. The Hospitalers? Is that how you're expecting it to be pronounced? Hospitalers? If that is a pun, I don't get it. But then I suppose it's supposed to be sneaky. Thinking maybe the Tinkerers are like the Experior Collegium. I'm not familiar with that. Where's that from? Experior Collegium. Latin for try and Collegium Latin for guild. Oh, well, yeah, obviously. Okay. Yeah, Experior, experiment. Got it, got it. Collegium. Guild. I thought it was a reference to something. But, to be fair, I also only took a semester of Latin, so I'm not super up to date with my Latin roots. So we can call them the Experior Collegium. Hospitalers. Hospitalers. I don't know. I don't get it. Whatever the joke is, I don't get it. Waffles! No, adulting! Oh, shoot. Organization. Alright, generic. We'll see you in a little bit. Oh, not a pun. Just... okay. So let's say... Experior Collegium. Actual group of knights. I'm not familiar with them. Organization. So we've got that. Okay. Service Industry Guild. Let's skip them for now. Let's talk about this Druidic Circle / Cleric Order / Sailors. They're the navigators for the city. They're the ones that use their magic to keep it aloft, powering the machines that keep it aloft anyway. Wave Riders. I can dig it. Generic Nerd's not here, but see, I can use it. I use it, and it makes perfect sense. It's not dated at all. Wave Riders. Organization. Suck. Sucker. Okay. Organization. Cool. So we've got Wave Riders. What about our City Watch? Are we going with Vanguards? Is that the thing that we're doing? Oh. I hope so. There you go. Vanguards. Alright. So our service industry guild is probably... Let's see. Fishmongers we can call... We can just call the catch. Organization. There we go. So we got a name for our fishmongers. We'll come back to the name for the service industry guild. Let's talk about infrastructure. What have the and this is what the kind of byline, little tagline that they've given you in World Landful. Infrastructure. What have the entrepreneurial spirits of this settlement built? Examples include water mills and windmills, sewers, courtyards, blast furnaces, roads, bridges, shipyards, etc. I guess to answer that question, we might need to know what our assets are. Equipment, stores, valuables, etc. Massive turbines, apparently. Yeah. Massive water-powered turbines. Parentheses. Big enough to power an entire city. To power and fly an entire city. So we've got turbines for sure. That is an interesting question. What do we do? I mean, do they just dump their waste in the ocean? I feel like that wouldn't be something that they would be, especially an entire city. Their waste would be tremendous. I feel like that's not something that the Wave Riders would allow. Being so closely tied to the ocean. So what do... Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't know why random fits of yawning have struck me, but they have. So what do they do with their waste? That's a tough one. I mean, obviously their bio waste is probably used to create gardens on the on the floating city itself. So they would probably use their bio waste for fertilizer. So there's probably a bio waste processing plant. Burn and or recycle organic waste to heat homes and grow food. Yeah, but what about inorganic waste? Or maybe because they're, I mean, they don't have burn it to power other generators for lights. Yeah. So we have an organic waste recycling plant. That's a big part of the infrastructure. How are people getting around this city? Are they just using, I mean, because it would be difficult for them to maintain like keep horses and stuff on the city, probably. It would be difficult for them to maintain, or keep that stable as a mode of transportation. So they'd have to figure out another way other than horse-drawn carriage. And a train system would be too heavy, I think, for a floating city. So maybe we've got to figure out. It's not like they have plastics or anything that can't be reforged or reused. Yeah, that's true. Why? Why am I yawning? Let's see. Works like Venice. Like a canal system, maybe. Okay, so here's another bit of lore that might help that make sense. In the world of Lumera, there are items called Arcanoclasts. For those of you who have been watching the campaign should be familiar with at least one instance of an Arcanoclast that I've used in game, and that is Cornelius Hedges' horse and carriage has an Arcanoclast affixed to it that allows him to animate and unanimate, or however you want to call it. Basically, it shrinks the horse and carriage down into a small size and turns the horse into a figurine, and it grows the horse and carriage into a full size and animates the horse figurine, and that the arcane power that is affixed to the carriage itself comes from the Arcanoclast, which is basically like an amplifier for magic. It allows you to boost magic. It allows you to do all sorts of interesting and strange things with magic. So maybe they had access to enough deposits of Arcanoclasts in order to do this, but not enough to you know, create an entire flying city, which begets the need for the mechanical aspect, the turbines the water turbines that power the entire city. So let's say that they have these Arcanoclasts that allow them to create a network of canals that are kind of like, and it's difficult to describe, but it's like harnessed. It's like a focused control water spell that constantly keeps the canals flowing in a direction, so to speak. And it's almost like a bus route. You get on the canal system at a certain point, and he takes you from point A to point B, and it's just constantly moving, and you're able to get off when you need to, so to speak. Alternatively, it would just be basically a more powerful version of the levitate spell that allows them to levitate these bodies of water that are creating the canals in the on the city, or in the city. I don't know the proper terminology to use for that. But yeah, either way, a canal system, that's real cool, and I like that. So that was a good call, Waffles. Monsieur Waffles. So we've got Arcano Canals. Okay. Don't imagine they have shipyards, because they go from point A to point B, so ships don't need to go to them. They might have windmills in order to create other, you know, power for other things. Yeah, I think that's good. That's all good stuff for infrastructure. At least the most important things. Water mills. Yeah, obviously. Water mills. Yeah, I think that's all the important stuff for the infrastructure. So, oh, and I can actually add a name. Flows up from the turbines through the canals into the mills. Yeah. Cairn. I can actually put a name there now. Then Cairn. Cool. All right. So let's go back to demographics. Who do we think lives in this city? I think we initially had the idea for humans being a minority, or at least a less populous. I think that's a cool idea. So humans are there, but they're definitely less populous than the rest of the citizens. Actually, for this, I should pull up our list of races that we have. Because there aren't... all of them don't exist. At least not all of the official Wizards of the Coast ones that have been released. Where is that? It's in my Google Drive somewhere. Recent. Here we go. All right, so we've got maybe. It's definitely possible. All right, so here's kind of the distribution of the various races as far as our world is concerned. Humans are the most common because they were there before and they just populated more parts. Elves and dwarves are the next most common, or they're sort of uncommon as far as they're not quite as populous as humans, but they're still in higher numbers. Oh, excuse me. Then we have some rarer races. We have orcs and half-orcs, half-elves, halflings, gnomes, goblins, tabaxis. They're slightly more rare than your average. Then we have very rare races, which are Azamar, Tiefling, Aarakocra, Kenku, Triton, and Goliath. The history of the Azamar race is also a little different in our world, as far as why they exist. As far as, similar to Tieflings, it's not quite the same. Basically, Azamar are descended from the ancient followers, or the old world followers of the original Scions, and they kind of got their divinely influenced racial flavors from exposure to the shards of Aenir. Actually, it's almost like extended, like a mutation that was caused by the divine radiation of the shards of Aenir, so to speak. So, that's the wrong thing. I didn't want to open that. I didn't want to open that. All right. And then we have extremely rare races. We have dragonborn, lizardfolk, yuan-ti, genasi, and turtles. Again, dragonborn are extremely rare, almost non-existent. I wanted to leave it open for them to exist in the world, potentially, but you would almost never see a dragonborn in the world. And then races that don't exist in our world: centaurs, bugbears, furbolgs, gith, hobgoblins, kobolds, and minotaurs. And that's just because I wanted to kind of tidy up the list of racial options as far as things were concerned. Felt like there was just too much going on. Gnomes heavy into inventing? Yeah, for sure. So there's probably a pretty big gnome population. Gnomes. have? I must be more tired than I thought. Because I keep yawning. Say, so we've got gnomes. Maybe halflings or half elves. Halflings, elves, half elves for the hospitality. You didn't miss much, generic nerd. We came up with some important parts of the infrastructure for the very few dwarves, because dwarves and water don't mix. I mean, unless you're Merle High Church, the beach dwarf from the first season of Adventure Zone, then you really like the water. But yeah, we came up with some infrastructure for the city. Obviously discussed the fact that the city obviously has massive water-powered turbines, big enough to power and fly an entire city. There's also organic waste recycling plants that would be used to recycle all of the bio waste that is created by the populace. And quick question, where do half-orcs fit in Lumera? So, in order to talk about half-orcs, we have to talk about orcs in general. So, the way that I envisioned orcs in this world is another mutation, so to speak, from the line of humans. So during that 800 years war, the War of Man, there were some various deals that were made. In fact, I would liken orcs in this world to tieflings in any other setting. There were some deals that were made by leaders of groups of humans in order to gain some power, and now I'm gonna have to look up what I called this guy. Here, let's make sure we save our changes so I don't lose that stuff that we marked down. Go to world articles. Gonna have to remember what I called him. It's probably in here. Ira. So, 5 families of humans made a deal with the demon lord of wrath, or anger, wrath. Our demon lords in this world are kind of influenced by the 7 deadly sins. So we have a demon lord of wrath, Ira, and they made a deal with him in order to gain power. Now, the result of this deal was they became horrible, wrath-filled creatures that gave them an edge over their opponents, so to speak. And yeah, that's kind of the short version of where orcs came from in this world. So now that we understand that, half-orcs are kind of they're kind of they're the same in the sense that they're the result of the union of a human and an orc, because humans and orcs share that common lineage of orcs were once humans. It kind of ties that all up in a nice little bow a little better than, oh, these creatures from another strange plane of existence that showed up in this world are called orcs, and they can suddenly mate with humans. So yeah. Now, as far as where they fit in Lumera, they can fit in anywhere. They're I mean, they can do pretty much anything any other race would do. They're not exactly bound by their orc brethren's bloodlust, so to speak. Okay. Small population of half-orc intellectuals. Half-orcs. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. And then we mentioned tieflings. There's probably some water genasi. Let's just say genasi in general, because there's probably some air genasi there too. The air genasi are probably part of the magpies. And those are probably the main races. And then we would just say other. Because there's going to be a smattering of all the other races. There's probably going to be an odd half-orc or an odd dwarf. There's probably going to be a small number of any number of races. So we've got, let's say gnomes are the most populous. Why not? So let's say 65% of the population are gnomes. And then let's say actually let's go 40. No, let's go 55%. Then we can say, let's say maybe genasi are above tieflings. Let's say half-orcs are 10%. Let's say genasi are also 10%. Tieflings are 7%. Humans are say 5%. And then let's say our other is the rest. It's 5 plus 10, or 55 plus 10 is 65, 75, 87. So the other is 13%. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can talk about how wealth is distributed. How many people are wealthy versus how many people aren't wealthy, so to speak. Because again, demographics isn't just race, isn't just species. It's wealth classes, professions, etc. And then after that, we can talk about government and how the government is formed. And I think after that we can maybe flesh out one or two of our guilds. So yeah, how wealthy are the people in Van Cairn? I think some of them are nobles of other races instead of human. Oh yeah, there's probably, I mean, obvious. I wouldn't even say nobles, because nobles kind of denotes a sort of monarchy, kings and the like. And this kind of bleeds into government. I think that our city, whatever it is probably democratic or led by could be led by. In fact, it might even be the word for it escapes me. Or it's led by smart peoples. It's an autocracy? Maybe. Maybe that's the word for it. No. Meritocracy. That's the word I was looking for. Like wealthy half-orc and genasi could be seen in a hot spring or going to jury duty together. Is going to jury duty a date now? Maybe. For some people. Could be a good way to it could be a good way to find a date. I mean, you're both stuck in a place. It's mandatory. But yeah, maybe I'm thinking maybe Vercairn. God, Van Cairn. Who knows? Maybe jury duty is something they might not see as a bad thing. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they see it as their, which it is, their civic duty. Van Cairn. All right. Mouth make words. Cool beans. All right. So let's say wealth distribution. Feel free to workshop that name. No, it's just my brain wasn't making the right letters for the word. It's a whole thing. Don't worry about it. Wealth distribution. So let's say let's say 10%. Yeah, 10% of the population would be considered wealthy. And I feel like, oh, excuse me. Okay, so here's a question. Do we want to have a meritocracy, which is society led by the most intelligent, educated people? Often tied up in a bureaucracy to handle the day-to-day work of the government? Or do we want to have a plutocracy, which is a society that's governed by the wealthy? The elite form a ruling council, purchase representation at the court of a figurehead monarch, or rule by default because money is the true power in the realm. Yeah, I'm thinking the majority of the population, is probably somewhere around 70%, are middle class. Meritocracy is a good idea, and the city holds education to a high regard. Okay. So yeah, we've got 10% wealthy, 70% middle class, and then that leaves 20% lower class, or poor. Cool. So like we said, our government is a meritocracy. So they value education. Keep the city from falling. Teachers are actually well paid, so it might be a true fantasy. Yeah, right. More money for teachers. More money for teachers. All right, so you got a meritocracy. Oop. Laws, taxation, and organization of the machine, which is responsible to keep the settlement alive. All right. Infrastructure, Not super worried about architecture. Alright. Cool. So let's save those changes. And then... Alright. Uh-oh. Looks like our links didn't quite work out. Oh, that's why. I misspelled organization. All right. So which of our guilds do we want to try fleshing out? We've got the Magpies. We've got the Experier Collegium. We've got the Wave Riders, the Vanguards, and the Catch. The Magpies are bird trainers / thieves. Experier Collegium is our mechanics and tinkerers. The Wave Riders are our navigators, the group of clerics and druids that were once devoted to the torrent. We've got the Vanguards as our city watch, so to speak, and the Catch are our fishmongers. We did not give a name to it, but we have a service industry guild as well that we could try to flesh out, but don't really know what name we could give it. Thoughts? Anybody? Bueller? Party ever made it here? I don't think Wit would want to leave. Yeah. It's pretty. It would be a pretty cushy lifestyle. Don't name it. It's just the service industry. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, Wit probably wouldn't want to leave. Hospitality is important. Pretty cushy lifestyle, actually. Probably. For the most part. Let's do the magpies. Why do you take me here? Magpies. Okay, fine. Lumera. Go to articles. He'd be like, there are legal thieves? Mind blown. Here we go. Magpies. Alright. Excuse me. Alright, so type of organization. Let's see if we've got guild thieves. That works. But they're not only that. They're also... Let's see. I guess guild professional would be the most accurate. Representation. Unless we can find teachers. Trainers. Let's see. Triumvirate. No. Research. Religious. Political. Military. I guess they'd technically be a syndicate too. Oh, I can't have multiple ones? Well then fine. Be that way. I guess we'll just call them a Thieves Guild. World Anvil. Shakes fist at World Anvil. Just kidding. I love you, World Anvil. So yeah, we've got options to give them a motto or slogan. Obviously, we'd have to create some sort of logo. Oh, excuse me, flag or crest. Alternative names. I imagine people probably refer to them as Maggies. Organization structure. The organization's structure defines the hierarchy of titles within it. It describes the major roles and their responsibilities in the organization. Examples of these roles are the King of a Kingdom, the Treasurer of a Merchant's Guild, the Acolyte of a Religious Order. Then we've got Public Agenda, Assets, History, outline the history. Go away, notifications. Founding date. They were never disbanded. They still exist. All right. So yeah, what's our organization structure like? What do we obviously have a guild leader. What's our guild leader called? If we're going with bird names, we should probably stick with that. know our public agenda. We know that we are bird trainers. Imagine a lot of bird themes indeed, for sure. I know that we have we're bird trainers slash procurers of items, to steal a phrase from Wit, procurers of items. Do a lot of charity. I don't know why I'm yawning so much, man. That would fall right in line with organized crime. We know all of the treasures of the sky. I can dig it. Treasures of the sky. But yeah, a lot of charity. That would fall right in line with organized crime, because lots of organized crime bosses did a lot of charity for the peoples of the city. So that would make sense. All right. So we've got the boss. I'm just gonna write this stuff out and we'll come up with names for it. We've got my nose is getting stuffy. I think I'm getting sick. I think that's why my body is kind of feeling tired. Then we've got probably guild. Let's see, our guild. We've probably got a treasurer. Actually, you know what, guys? I think I might actually take the rest of the night off, because I am like all of a sudden not feeling very well. No, that's probably bad TV to hear that your host isn't feeling well, but I'm not feeling great. So but before this moment, I had a lot of fun world building with you guys. This was very productive, and I can't wait to introduce Van Cairn to the players. I can't wait to bring this to life in game. It'll be very cool. Anyway, thank you guys for watching.